Hey, cunts, don't forget to click the subscribe button. And so, like last night when, I don't know why everybody's cold, other than, I'd like to equate it because you got no balls, but that could be, or no testosterone flowing through your veins. But so this is one of the only buildings in Scotland that was like built for corona, the ventilation part. And actually, we're supposed to have the doors open. But Sally says, we tried that 3 corona seminars ago, and you couldn't take it. You couldn't. You couldn't, as they say in this part of the world. You couldn't. So by accident, by the grace of Allah himself, the fucking destiny, this motherfucking building on Albatross on my neck is the perfect setting for corona seminars. This £1 million albatross that I was going to plow under the ground 2 or 3 years ago and build a swimming pool. Now, if that's not fucking destiny, I don't know what is. Just as what Mr. Hawking said. Can you read English? Would you please read it for me out loud so you can hear it?
In a world that is in chaos politically, socially, and environmentally, how can the human race sustain another 100 years?
He said that in 2006, right? But you weren't looking for these things. A lot of people say we're through. And you're going around like Pollyanna. Pollyanna in the movie Gone with the Wind, which is now banned because of the black shit, Gone with the Wind, the famous, iconic movie. At the end of the movie, Scarlett O'Hara is standing out in front of her house. Atlanta is burning to the ground. And she goes, I can't wait till the springtime to see the tulips. That's where you come from. I wouldn't have wasted money coming here. I'd be building a fucking underground bunker and loading it up with food and guns. I am not the only one that thinks this. And you still don't get it. And that's why Jeff and Elon and the boys are going to Mars. Because they don't want to be here for the end. I pulled out the gentleman's file that we saw the last webinar last night I'm not going to share it on YouTube, but I wanted to pull out his file just to see if my memory, which is not 100% photographic, but 95, if my memory was serving me correctly or I was suffering from early onset dementia, which unfortunately a lot of people I know now at my age, and I was always the youngest of my group, so that means everybody else is, 3, 4, 5, 8 years older than I am. So, and unfortunately, we've already lost a few. 2 seminars ago, we lost 5 people the week before the seminar. 5 of my cohorts, colleagues in crime, or whatever you want to call it. 3 to cancer, 1 to old age. And we're still not sure how the other one died. The autopsy seems to be taking 5 months. But it wasn't corona. Although one of my superstars, who we're going to hear today and or tomorrow, one of his 8 acquisitions is fallen to the corona. They're fighting it tooth and nail because he's accumulating rest homes. And so now one of the facilities, somebody's come down and they're all going bug fuck about it. As they should. Surprised that we hadn't been hit by corona, because that's the business we're in. And when we're off of YouTube, and I point out a couple of things about, basically he came here 2 years ago, right out of grad school. Didn't know shit. And you heard him. And I was laughing my ass off last night telling Sally how you all look like your mother just passed away. You all look sick to your stomachs. But we tell you the truth here. And no refunds. And by the way, I forgot in housekeeping, email that housekeeping slide that we went through yesterday morning, is that we are going to have a hardcore next year in June. And I forgot to put that on the housekeeping. So anyway, just as we're going to have a hardcore in 2 weeks from now, here in December, the Christmas hardcore, which is 1 day longer because the Christmas fucks it all up. Because Sally, we all celebrate Christmas. And we get presents and we all wear fucking not bunny shit, Santa shit, anyway. So we lose a day. And I'm not tough enough to tell Sally we can't celebrate Christmas because it's an extra day, anyway. Last night, you saw who? Pardon? And my old friend Steve. The last time I saw Steve Jobs was in Bangalore, India, about 2004 or 5-ish, in a very posh nightclub. And he was by himself, and he's wearing black, like he does. And he was like this. He was just dancing around the middle of the dance floor like this, by himself, in a trance. Some people say he lived his whole life in a trance. But that's a whole other story. Now, this is the third movie about Steve that's come out since his passing. The first movie made him out a saint, which we all know he wasn't. The second movie made him out an asshole. And the third movie made him out, well, we'll see what you think of last night's movie. And I'm told another movie's coming out. And it would have come out this year, but Corona didn't. And they didn't want to put it just on streaming on YouTube or whatever. And so it's going to come out hopefully next year. It should ought to be the real butcher job on him. And to describe Steve in a word, one word.
Ruthless.
The mic.
Ruthless.
Yes, sir.
Driven.
German?
Driven.
Oh, driven. Excuse
Yes, sir.
me. Okay. All of which are true. I did work for Apple back in the day. He used to try to throw programmers out third and fourth story windows. Threw computers at people. The old type, the old ones. Doesn't sound like you, does it? Choke people. What else about him? Yes, sir.
Focused.
Laser beam focused. What else? Yes, sir.
He had a clear vision what he wanted, and he demanded everything from everybody. He didn't ask you questions.
Now, when you're watching these things, and it doesn't describe any of your traits whatsoever, none. Are you cognizant of that? Do you understand, or are you so oblivious? Are you so Pollyanna? You're so fucked up, your head so far up your fucking ass that you don't understand that these icons have none of the traits that they have, that they possess to change the world. Do you understand that? Or do I have to tell you? Who doesn't understand that? Okay, so you do understand. You just don't want to say it. And they change the world. And there's 4 or 5 of you here want to change the world. What are you smoking? What the fuck's wrong with you? A lot. I should say, as a really smart psychiatrist a few years ago said, what you should be asking then is, what the fuck's right with us? Duh. I had an epiphany. That's a better question. But there's nothing right with you. What else about Steve? Yes, sir, in the back.
He was a director and played the orchestra of Apple.
The first night, if I didn't say it, I normally say it, is for the first time you're going to be the conductor. And there's about 25 instruments in a full orchestra, like the Philharmonic or the New York, whatever. but you only need to learn how to play one of them. And that's the mystical part of this. And the reason why that Goldman Sachs, etc., don't teach what I teach is there's no fees involved. Because we're a debt-driven model. And there's little or no fees on debt. Other than the interest you pay on it. But there's little or no fees. So nobody preaches it. But it's been around since the late 1800s when, as far as I can tell, Andrew Carnegie discovered it. And the reason he discovered it is because he was a cheap, mean little fucking bastard who didn't want people owning equity in this deal. So how do you not give away equity in deals? Don't take equity investment. How do you get transactions completed without equity? All debt. Ergo, QLA. But nobody teaches it. In 1993, when I gave the first seminar, and Bruce the Whipple was in my audience, along with several others, it was obvious to me, well, I grossly underestimated how, forget the self-esteem issue, I grossly underestimated how stupid people were. Because I had always been, I hung, if that's the right word, with bright people. I really, truly sought out, tried to find people smarter than me. I'm still looking for one. So the people that I hung with, if you want to call it, were all bright, and they understood, what it was, who shot John. And they understood this too. But after 4 or 5 years, and I told Sally, I'm going to do this until 2000. I'll do it 7 years, 1993 to 2000, then I'm going to quit. 2000 came and went, and for those of you that remember, in 2000 they said the world was going to end because the computers were going to stop and the planes were going to fall out of the sky and all that bullshit. Which I knew was a load of shit, and anybody that had any brains knew it was a load of shit. But anyway, and 2000 came and went, and I'll do it to 2005. Then I said, I'll do it to 2010. And about 2008 or 9, Sally says, I don't think there's going to be anybody doing this, Dan. And she was right. Because there's no money in it. In the B schools, when I was at University of Pennsylvania a year ago, last month, privileged to be there. Elon Musk went there. Donald Trump went there. But they list in their alumni on their webpage, famous alumni. And everybody misses them. Just like you miss this. Doc Holliday, Wyatt Earp's pal from the OK Corral gunfight, murderer, is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania Dental School. So when I'm telling the audience this to these allegedly smart people, I don't think 3 people in the audience knew that Doc Holliday had gone to school with him or at their same school. What else about Steve? Yes, sir.
He was indifferent to other people's opinions. He made up his mind, and then he just went forward with it.
Don't confuse me with the facts. I may be wrong, but I'm never in doubt. Does this all sound familiar to you? Just the antithesis of what you are. Doesn't have to be the antithesis of what you're going to become. But it certainly is the antithesis of what you've been heretofore. And again, self-esteem is built the first 7 or 8 years of life. They used to, in the homily during the Catholic, pre-Vatican 1965, the Vatican Act, when they changed from Latin, giving masses in Latin, and they used to have the priest's back was to the audience. In 65, the priest turned around to the audience and they switched it to English. But when it was in Latin, part of the homily, part of the holy roller bullshit part of the mass was, you give me your children the first 7 years of life and the church will own them. That was in the fucking homily. The Catholic Church figured this shit out a long time ago. The Catholic Church has its hand so far up my rectum, I'm surprised its hand's not coming out my mouth. They owned me as a kid. I wanted to be a priest. I used to teach Bible study, catechism, and all that shit. And then I entered puberty and discovered girls, and the world was never the same. My days of being a priest, I probably would have been a bad priest. That my days of being a priest, or my idea of that ended. By the way, I'm happy to say, we have a 60% divorce rate for people that attend the seminar. Well, we've already had one divorce before they got to the seminar. I'm happy to say. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I'm proud to announce. You don't believe me. What did the kids say yesterday in the last webinar? How important somebody to support you. Because nobody is. And I turned and looked at your faces. Because you've got nobody. What else about Steve? Yes, sir.
He didn't care what the stakeholders wanted or thought about it.
Fuck them! When I owned 60% of my public company, fuck the shareholders. Fuck them and the horse they rode in on. I would have gone to jail as a CEO of a public company now. We used to have shareholders meetings, and we had thousands and tens of thousands of shareholders. Half of this room would be the shareholders that came to the shareholders meeting. Because it didn't matter what they said. It didn't matter how they fucking voted. I didn't care. In the good old days. And silently, a lot of the icons that were running public companies back in those days, give it to them, Dan. We wish we could, but we only own 6% of our company. Give it to them, Dan. Give it to them. Do you really think they care what the fucking shareholders think? When they get up there and they flap their lips about the green and the icebergs floating, oh God, they don't give a fuck. Did Steve Jobs change the world as we know it? Abso-fucking-lutely. Remember, success leaves clues. And then we got you. And you. He was I don't want to say a miserable human being because I don't like to talk ill of the dead, but he was a miserable human being. Yes, sir.
He did not care of anybody else. He was emotionally detached from anybody, and that put him in another state of mind to be able to carry on business the way he did.
Remember I said familiarity breeds contempt? And Meathead back here says, well, why is that? Nah. Like he's in the 4th grade. Fucking moron. Because it's hard to put a cap in their ass when I don't even know the name of all the people that work on this estate. Some have been here 17, 18 years. One of them was driving one of the boogies, as Sally would say. And I go, well, then I dawned on me, I don't even know his fucking name. I know one guy's from Sri Lanka, I call him Ponytail. That's the closest to a name, because he's got a ponytail. That's it. And Steve understood that. Remember when they were sitting at the table, if this is the same movie, sitting at the table, they're talking about just before they go public, and the shares that they're going to be distributed. And Steve says, well, those guys aren't getting shares now, or something like that. Those were handshake deals. You should have learned from the first icon, handshake deals don't last. And when I go through this guy's file with you, the biggest fucking he got was on a handshake deal. I'm the only white, black, yellow, or purple man that I know of that honors handshake deals, and you can ask Bruce Whipple. We've had a handshake deal for 27 years, but I had a handshake deal with Suharto, the dictator of Indonesia, for 25 years. He was a butcher, rapist, killer, murderer, you name it. But he treated me fair. So I hear all these stories about him. But he treated me right. Why do you think he treated me right? And he fucks everybody else for practice? I'll give you the answer when we're not on YouTube. Because they can fuck with you all day long. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. You fuck with me, you better have your estate in order, because you're going to meet your maker. And I may or may not bite your nose off first. Fear works. It's a shitty thing to say about the world, but fear works. And fear is still the greatest motivator. Then comes money. Remember when I gave you 72 hours or I was going to blow your little girl's or little boy's head off? That's fear. He was iconic. He wasn't the biggest asshole we're going to study this week, but he's right up there in the top 10 or 20. So the question that you've already asked yourself, you should ask yourself before you wasted your money coming here, is how big an asshole am I? This is how you would phrase it. How big an asshole am I willing to be vis-a-vis my pay price to action? How big a sacrifice? Because you being hard on people and ruthless on people, you'll consider that a emotional or human sacrifice, where I think it's just the opposite. I think it's a great trait. But you'll think it's an emotional sacrifice to have to make your little 5-year-old boy cry. You don't make him cry. He cries. We don't put the tears in their eyes, do we? They put the tears in their eyes. How many have kids 8 years or less? How many have kids 9 years or older? Forget about it. Put a cap in their ass. Boom! You can't resurrect them. They got a commercial right. I point like this is a television. They got a commercial for Verizon or one of the mobile phones. I forget what it is. And it's about security, teenagers seeing porn and bad shit on going to the black web and shit like that, which I don't even know what that means, the black web. But anyway, they talk about it on this advertisement on television. And and there's 3 couples. God love them. And that's just regular folk, as they would say in Texas. That's why we're fucked. This is regular folk. They have these 3 couples that are talking about husband, wife, husband, wife, husband, wife, 2 mixed couples or mixed race couples and one just same race couple. And they asked the couples separately 3 questions about internet security. None of the 3 couples could even answer other than, I know we need a password. That's the level of sophistication. And they weren't even aware that there were other things that they could stop their kids from doing other than taking, he says, I take my daughter's cell phone and she just goes to her tablet. And then I take her tablet and she goes whatever else, something else is, right? Our kids, and I just got no, here's your cell phone, honey. Broken now. Don't worry about being grounded. You're handcuffed to your bed until I say otherwise. And look at how they've turned out, and they're millennials. Any questions about Steve? Any questions about his methodology? There's no question that he was iconic. So the question you should be asking yourself, actually before you got here, yes, sir.
So he claims that he did all those things, like inventing the iPod, inventing everything.
Correct.
But although it's been proven that he hasn't actually invented it, someone else came up with it, but he just claims all the fame.
So, but who do they remember? Him or the other guy?
Him, because...
Of course.
But is that the right way?
And so you're going to be the other guy in life.
No, but I'm just asking if is that the way to
that's
go?
fine. It doesn't matter. It's like, it's awful what Hitler did to the Jews in the Holocaust. Unconscionable. No question about that. Okay? But there's still people on this planet that don't think the Holocaust happened. Most of them are from the Middle East. That's a whole other story, though. Most of them in the Middle East. Ayatollah, wow, whatever. But Hitler's not the one that actually burned the Jews. He had plausible deniability. If he had gone to the Berlin trial, the Holocaust trial after, he could have said plausible deniability. I wasn't there because he wasn't. Hermann Goering and Dan, all these other guys did it. You worry about stuff that doesn't matter. The dumbest one of you in this group, whoever that is, I put some bets down, but knows more about the internet than I do. Yet I've been and taken IT companies public. I sent out a Christmas card yesterday to 92 people. I did it myself. Right, Kat? I've already got some sarcastic remarks back. And I don't know how to cut and paste. I don't know how to do any of that. So I just you gave me about 20 pictures, right? And I used about 10 or 12 of them. So here was the words of the email, and then there were just pictures like this down. I don't know how. I was afraid that it wasn't going to be able to go through because it was too much shit. And some people were honored is too strong a term. Honored that I would personally do that. Now they took it just the opposite of what I meant by it. I meant by it, I didn't want to fuck around and take the time of my staff, so I did it myself. They took it. Well, God, Dan's so busy. He's such an icon. He's such a big fucking hitter. He's Jesus Christ on the planet, and he did it himself. Well, as Allah is my witness, that was not my fucking intention. Because people want to see the good in you, even if there's no fucking good. If I'd known that, I would have never sent the motherfucker out. It's bad for my brand. Any other questions about Mr. Jobs? Yes, sir.
He reminded me of Henry Ford when he didn't know exactly how to build what he wanted to build, but he found the people
Correct.
to accomplish that.
Correct. I can make you CEO, which I'm not going to, but I can't lead the people. The board is there to govern. The board is not there to lead your employees. You're there to lead them. And based on, for the most part, almost everybody that comes through here has little or no leadership skills. When I was at University of Pennsylvania, I asked the same three questions wherever I go. How many classes have you had in leadership? Nobody raises their hand. How many classes have you had in selling a business? Nobody raises their hand. And how many classes have you had in buying a business? Nobody raises their hand. I'm using the University of Pennsylvania as one of the leading schools on the planet. I asked the same question at Oxford. Same response. So what prepares you to the extent that you do go to school, which I would have never gone back to university knowing what I know now. Only reason I finished college after flunking out 3 times is that my mother wanted me to be the first in the family. She was an illegal alien, first in the family to graduate from university on her side of the family. That's the only reason. She guilted me. But and back when I was 22, 23, I was susceptible to guilt. In other words, but now it's like water off a duck's back. But then I did that. That's the only reason. I didn't have to go to school. I didn't learn a fucking thing. As most of you will attest to, you didn't learn a fucking thing either. And some of you got 2 or 3 degrees. And how's that program worked out for you? Because normally poor people think education will get you out of the gutter and or sports. And that's why a lot of minority kids, a lot of black kids come up the sports way. And I'm not, I've met a lot of professional athletes. They're not all illiterate. That's an exaggeration. But they're closer to illiterate than literate. Okay, YouTube, thank you.